Welcome back to the Don't Make Column channel. We're going to continue our tutorial for Warhammer 40,000 5th edition. And before we go into too much detail, the first thing that we're going to review is characteristics of a 40k unit. Now, every 40k unit can be found in the back of the 5th edition rulebook on pages 98 through 108. For instance, here's orcs, there's Tau. But for readability purposes of this video, we're going to go ahead and switch over and just utilize the Space Marine Codex. Now, across the top, you'll see various abbreviations. They stand for Weapon Skill, Ballistic Skill, Strength, Toughness, Wound, Initiative, Attacks, Leadership, and Save. All these numbers range from 0 to 10. And with the exception of the save column, which is the last column, the better troops will have higher numbers in each one of the columns.
WS, or Weapon Skill, score indicates how good a model is in close combat. The BS score, or Ballistic Skill, determines how accurate the model is with ranged attacks. S stands for the model's strength. The value shows how physically strong a unit is and is used to determine how hard the model hits in close combat. T is the character's toughness, and it basically measures how well the model can resist physical pain from ranged and close combat attacks. The next column indicates the number of wounds a model can take before it is removed from the table. I, or the character's initiative, helps to set the attack order in close combat. While some factors can affect this score, typically the higher number goes first. A is the number of base attacks a model has in close combat. Again, many things can affect this number, such as adding a +1 when the unit is charging. When firing ranged weapons, ignore this value and instead use the firing rate of the weapon itself. LD stands for leadership, and it measures how brave or how cowardly a unit is in battle. For leadership tests, what you'll do is take 2d6 and you will need to roll this value or less. Again, many things affect this value depending on what army you're using. This last column is the only column where we want the value to be low. This is your unit's save value, and basically determines whether or not a wound that is taken either by firing, from fire, or from close combat translates to a wound. You will roll this value or higher in order to save that wound. 1d6 per wound. So for instance, if in this particular tactical squad I have a Space Marine that took a wound that I can allow an armor save for, and again, all this will be discussed in more detail in a later video, but let's say that I can take a save on that wound. If I roll a 3, 4, 5, or 6, that wound is not actually allocated to the model. It's ignored. The armor saved that unit from becoming a casualty. You'll notice that when we're referencing the characteristics of a vehicle that there are far fewer things that you're going to be looking at. You will have a ballistic skill typically if that vehicle has ranged weaponry. In some instances you might actually have a weapon skill. For instance, the IG Sentinel has a weapon skill because it can fight in close combat. And you'll also have these armor values. This indicates the front, the side, and the rear armor. And is typically used only when you are firing on a vehicle. In close combat, a unit always attacks the rear armor value, no matter where the enemy or the opposing close combat person is against this vehicle. In this case, for a Land Raider, it's all 14s. And the higher number, the better. Again, when we start having videos later on that talk about firing and moving into close combat against a vehicle, we'll go into more detail about how these values work out.